Today, we're revealing the 54 best-selling Super Nintendo games of all time. From Super Mario to Zelda and beyond, these are the games that shaped the SNES legacy. Can you guess which games make the top 3? Let's find out. 54. Super Star Wars. Released by Sculptured Software in 1992, Super Star Wars brings the first Star Wars movie to life with platforming and action-packed gameplay. It sold 1 million copies. 53. Super Bomberman II. Released by Hudson Soft in 1994, Super Bomberman 2 brings the classic bomb-planting action with new maps and multiplayer modes. It sold 1 million copies. 52. Space Invaders, the original game. Released by Taito in 1990, Space Invaders is a classic arcade shooter where players defend Earth from waves of alien invaders. It became a hit on the SNES, selling 1 million copies. 51. Tetris 2. Released by Bulletproof Software and Nintendo in 1993. Tetris 2 is a variation of the classic Tetris, adding colorful elements to the puzzle gameplay. It sold 1 million copies. 50. Super Tetris 2 plus Bombliss. Super Tetris 2 plus Bombliss, developed by Bulletproof Software in 1994, is a variation of the classic Tetris with new mechanics like matching colors instead of shapes. It sold 1 million copies. 49. Final Fight 2. Released by Capcom in 1993, Final Fight 2 continues the beat-em-up action with new characters and more challenging enemies. It sold 1.03 million copies. 48. Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Super Ghouls and Ghosts, developed by Capcom and released in 1991, is a challenging action platformer where players control Arthur to rescue Princess Prin Prin from evil forces. It became a hit, selling 1.09 million copies. 47. Derby Stallion 96. Released by Psy Entertainment in 1996, Derby Stallion 96 continued the horse racing simulation franchise, offering more options for breeding and racing. It sold 1.1 million copies. 46. Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden 2. Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden 2, developed by Toei in 1994, is another entry in the popular DBZ fighting series, featuring new characters and stages. It reached 1.15 million copies sold. 45. Mega Man X. Released by Capcom in 1993, Mega Man X brought a fresh twist to the Mega Man formula with new abilities and faster-paced gameplay. It sold 1.16 million copies. 44. Derby Stallion III. Derby Stallion III, released by Psy Entertainment in 1995, is a horse racing simulation where players breed and race horses. It sold 1.2 million copies. 43. Dragon Quest I and II. Released in 1993, Dragon Quest I and II, developed by Chunsoft, combined the first 2 Dragon Quest games into one cartridge. It became a huge success, ultimately selling 1.2 million copies. 42. The Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. The Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse, developed by Capcom in 1992, is a colorful and fun platformer where Mickey Mouse embarks on an adventure to save his dog Pluto. It reached 1.21 million copies sold. 41. Mortal Kombat III. Released in 1995, Mortal Kombat III by Sculptured Software brings new characters and fatalities to the iconic fighting game series. It sold 1.2 million copies. 40. NBA Jam. NBA Jam, developed by Iguana Entertainment in 1993, brought over-the-top, arcade-style basketball to the SNES. Known for its exaggerated dunks and wild gameplay, it sold 1.22 million copies. 39. The Lion King. Released by Westwood Studios in 1994, The Lion King is a platformer that follows Simba's journey from cub to king, set to the iconic Disney soundtrack. It became a classic, selling 1.27 million copies. 38. Romancing Saga 3. Romancing Saga 3, released by Square in 1995, continues the franchise's tradition of open-ended gameplay with multiple character paths. It reached 1.3 million copies sold. 37. Wonder Project J. Released by Almanac Corporation in 1994, Wonder Project J is a unique simulation game where players raise a robot girl named Pino. It combines elements of nurturing with adventure, selling 1.3 million copies. 36. Romancing Saga. Romancing Saga, developed by Square and released in 1992, is known for its open-ended gameplay and multiple character paths. It reached 1.32 million copies sold. 35. Dragon Quest III. Released in 1991 by Heartbeat, Dragon Quest III is a milestone in the RPG genre, featuring a deep class system and a massive world. It sold 1.4 million copies by the end of its run. 34. Super Metroid. Released in 1994 by Nintendo, Super Metroid is an exploration-based action-adventure that sees Samus Aran on a mission to rescue a baby Metroid. It's considered one of the greatest games of all time and reached 1.42 million copies sold. 33. Kirby Superstar. Kirby Superstar, developed by HAL Laboratory and released in 1996, is a collection of platforming and action mini-games featuring the iconic pink puffball, Kirby. It introduced innovative co-op gameplay and sold 1.44 million copies. 32. Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden. Released by Toei in 1993, Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden lets players control their favorite DBZ characters in intense one-on-one battles. With a diverse roster and special moves, it became a hit, ultimately selling 1.45 million copies. 31. Final Fight. Released by Capcom in 1991. Final Fight is a classic beat-em-up featuring Hagar, Cody, and Guy. Players fight through the streets to rescue Jessica from the Mad Gear gang. It reached 1.48 million copies sold. 30. Romancing Saga 2. Released by Square in 1993, Romancing Saga 2 is a non-linear RPG with deep gameplay mechanics and multiple endings. It reached 1.49 million copies sold. 29. Mortal Kombat II. Mortal Kombat II, developed by Sculptured Software in 1993, brought brutal fatalities and improved gameplay to the franchise. It reached 1.51 million copies sold. 28. Super Scope 6. Super Scope 6, bundled with the Super Scope peripheral, was released in 1992 by Nintendo R&D. It allowed players to engage in light gun shooting minigames and sold 1.65 million copies. 27. Super Puyo Puyo. Released in 1994 by Compile, Super Puyo Puyo is a puzzle game where players match colored blobs to clear the screen. It reached 1.7 million copies sold. 26. Disney's Aladdin. Disney's Aladdin, developed by Capcom in 1993, brought the Disney movie to life with stunning graphics and tight platforming. It eventually sold 1.75 million copies. 25. Final Fantasy IV. Released in 1991, Final Fantasy IV, known as Final Fantasy II in North America, introduced the active time battle system, making combat more dynamic. It reached 1.8 million copies sold. 24. Secret of Mana. Secret of Mana, released by Square in 1993, is known for its real-time battle system and cooperative multiplayer. It sold 1.83 million copies. 23. SimCity. Released by Nintendo EAD in 1991, SimCity brought city building to the SNES, allowing players to design and manage their own cities. It became a hit for its strategic gameplay, ultimately reaching 1.98 million copies sold. 22. Pilotwings. Released in 1990 by Nintendo, Pilotwings showcased Mode 7 graphics, letting players control different aircraft in various flight simulations. It eventually sold 2 million copies. 21. Super Street Fighter II. Super Street Fighter II, developed by Capcom in 1993, added new characters and faster gameplay to the original Street Fighter II. It became an instant success, ultimately reaching 2 million copies sold. 20. Super Mario RPG. Released in 1996, Super Mario RPG by Nintendo and Square combined the charm of Mario with classic RPG elements. It eventually reached 2.14 million copies sold. 19. Mario Paint. Mario Paint, developed by Nintendo R&D and released in 1992, was an innovative creative game that allowed players to draw, compose music, and even animate. It became a cult classic, reaching 2.31 million copies sold. 18. Final Fantasy V. Released by Square in 1992, Final Fantasy V introduced the job system, allowing players to mix and match abilities. It sold 2.45 million copies by the time it completed its run. 17. Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger, developed by Square in 1995, is one of the most highly acclaimed RPGs of all time, praised for its innovative time travel mechanics and compelling story. It reached 2.5 million copies sold. 16. Dragon Quest V. Dragon Quest V, released by Chunsoft and Enix in 1992, is one of the most beloved entries in the Dragon Quest series, featuring a story about family and destiny. It sold 2.8 million copies. 15. F-Zero. Released by Nintendo ED in 1990, F-Zero was one of the first SNES games to showcase the console's Mode 7 graphics, featuring futuristic racing at incredible speeds. It reached 2.85 million copies sold. 14. Dragon Quest VI. Released by Heartbeat and Enix in 1995, Dragon Quest VI was another critical success, offering expansive RPG gameplay. It sold 3.2 million copies. 13. Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct, developed by Rare and released in 1994, is a fighting game that combined fast-paced combat with flashy combos. It reached 3.2 million copies sold. 12. Final Fantasy VI. Released by Square in 1994, Final Fantasy VI, also known as Final Fantasy III in North America, is hailed as one of the greatest RPGs ever made. Known for its deep characters and epic storyline, it sold 3.42 million copies. 11. Donkey Kong Country 3. Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. Released in 1996 by Rare, Donkey Kong Country 3 introduced new characters and gameplay mechanics, while continuing the successful formula of the first two games. It sold 3.51 million copies. 10. Star Fox. Star Fox, developed by Nintendo EAD and released in 1993, is a 3D space shooter that introduced players to the iconic Fox McCloud and his team of anthropomorphic animals. It sold 4 million copies. 9. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, released by Nintendo in 1995. The game features unique hand-drawn visuals and introduces Yoshi as the main character in a platforming adventure to rescue baby Mario. It reached 4.12 million copies sold. 8. Street Fighter II Turbo. Released by Capcom in 1993, Street Fighter II Turbo refined the original Street Fighter II with faster gameplay and new characters. It sold 4.15 million copies. 7. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Released by Nintendo in 1991, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is an action-adventure masterpiece, praised for its intricate dungeons and deep lore. It reached 4.61 million copies sold. 6. Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Kong Quest. Released by Rare in 1995, Donkey Kong Country 2 is a sequel that improved upon the original with new characters and more complex levels. It became a fan favorite, eventually reaching 5.15 million copies sold. 5. Street Fighter II: The World Warrior. Released by Capcom in 1992, Street Fighter II changed the fighting game genre with its diverse character roster and competitive mechanics. It became a massive hit, reaching 6.3 million copies sold. 4. Super Mario Kart. Released in 1992 by Nintendo, Super Mario Kart was the beginning of the legendary kart racing series. It introduced fun multiplayer gameplay and colorful, chaotic races, ultimately reaching 8.76 million copies sold. 3. Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong Country, developed by Rare and released in 1994, revolutionized 2D platformers with its pre-rendered graphics and groundbreaking gameplay. It became one of the most iconic titles of the SNES, reaching 9.3 million copies sold. 2. Super Mario All-Stars. Released by Nintendo in 1993, Super Mario All-Stars is a compilation of remastered versions of the classic Mario games. It offers fans a chance to experience the original adventures with updated graphics. It sold 10.55 million copies. 1. Super Mario World. Released in 1990, Super Mario World is a seminal platformer by Nintendo, introducing Yoshi and the expansive dinosaur land. It became one of the best-selling SNES games, ultimately reaching 20.61 million copies sold. That's a wrap on our list of the top 54 best-selling SNES games. Which one of these games brings back the best memories for you? Or maybe you're discovering some new ones to try. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome content. Thanks for watching.